Hi, we are going to be discussing plagiarism. Okay, first of all, you might ask yourself, what is plagiarism? Plagiarism is taking someone else's work and passing it off as your own without their consent. So if you doing an assignment and you take someone's work and you do not acknowledge where that work is coming from, that is what we call plagiarism, because you need to acknowledge that this is information that you retrieved from somewhere else. Plagiarism can be intentional or non-intentional. However, either way, it's still plagiarism. Whether you intended to put the source there and you didn't, or you intentionally just did not reference your work, that is plagiarism. We have different types of plagiarism. We're going to be looking at 4 in particular. That is outright copying, paraphrase plagiarism, patchwork plagiarism, and stealing an apt term. We will start with outright copying. Some will explain outright copying as copy and paste. So when you take someone else's work and you write it exactly as it is, you don't put quotation marks or anything, then you place it there and you do not reference it. That is outright copying. Everything is word for word, but you do not reference that person's work. That is outright copying. So you can see in our example, there is a passage on the top which is referenced. That's how you do it. And then the bottom one is the outright copying plagiarism that has been done. So everything has been written word for word, punctuation and everything. However, the student did not reference the passage. Next, we then look at paraphrase plagiarism. Paraphrase plagiarism is when you then paraphrase a passage. You take someone else's work, you make it your own, you put it in your own words, and then you do not reference it. As much as it sounds like that might be your own idea, it is not. As much as it's your own words, it is not your own words. The idea came from someone else, from another author. So therefore, you would need to then reference where you got that information from. Paraphrasing, if you paraphrase someone else's passage or someone else's quotation, you still need to reference where that information is coming from. So that is paraphrase plagiarism. Then we have patchwork plagiarism. You might realize that sometimes you are writing your own paragraph there. However, maybe for example, you don't know how to put certain words, and then you see an author has put it very nicely, but then you just read that and then you take that idea and you patch it into your own work. It might not be word for word, it might not be the whole passage that you paraphrased. However, that patchwork, that amount of information that you got from that author, it still needs to be referenced. As you can see, the highlighted portion of the bottom part of the slide is the part that was scrambled together and put in there, and then it looks like it's your own idea. Any information that you take from someone else and make it your own and put it into your own work must be referenced. So patchwork is also plagiarism. It is not your work, it is from someone else's ideas, so it needs to be referenced. And then the last one is stealing an apt term. Sometimes you might write something like 90% of the paragraph is probably yours, and then you take a term from another author and you put it in there, and you did not come up with the term, so therefore you need to let us know, you need to let the reader know that that quote or that term that you took from another author and put it in, edit it onto your paragraph or onto your passage is not yours. So we need you to reference that term that you use. So stealing an app term is you're just stealing just a little bit, just stealing a particular term because you probably like the way it sounds and you put it into your work so that it sounds proper. That needs to be referenced. We need to show that this is not your idea, it's someone else's idea. So how do we avoid plagiarism? Sure, you've picked up as we've been going along that plagiarism is only avoided when you reference the author, the source, when you acknowledge the source of where you got your information from. So as you can see, you may avoid plagiarism by acknowledging your sources, which is done by referencing. Referencing, you take the sources, you take the source and you put it at the end of your passage to show that this is not my idea. Part of this passage is from someone else's idea, someone else's work, someone else's book, someone else's article, someone else's journal. So that's how you avoid plagiarism.